Good morning. Today is Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. In the crucible of crisis, we can sometimes find the purest goodness and strength. And in Israel today, we see examples throughout Israeli society, in every area of life, in ways public and private that are dramatic and that should fill us with pride at being part of the Jewish people. Health Minister Uriel Busso gave an interview on television a couple of days ago. He visited one of the elderly women who was released from being a hostage. She was still in the hospital. A woman in her 70s. And this woman said to the minister, he said, when they told her, the terrorists, Hamas, they told her that she was going to be released in the next group of hostages to be released, she argued with them. And she said, no, because there's another woman who's older than me, and she needs to go first, and I'm not going. Obviously, the terrorists were not interested in her magnanimous offer, and they forced her to leave. But Minister Busso just pointed out the incredible strength that this woman was able to retain under the most crushing circumstances. And even then, her care for her fellow Israelis, to put others before herself, even to come to freedom. Incredible. For many soldiers on the front line, this refinement, this strength and heroism of character is expressed in their relationship to halacha, to Jewish law, under the most difficult circumstances. And so what I'd like to share with you briefly this morning comes from Rabbi Yosef Rimon. I've quoted him to you many times. A tremendously authoritative expert in every area of Jewish law in Israel, and also someone with an uncommon sense of humanity and sensitivity. And he wrote just the other day that every day now he receives hundreds of questions in Jewish law from soldiers on the front line. And in looking at, obviously he has to answer each question, but taking a step back and looking at the entire scene, he says, Baruch Hashem, thank God, yesh lanu chayolim nifloim. We have such wonderful soldiers. And the questions that they ask demonstrate the exceedingly high spiritual and moral qualities that they carry with them in battle. The Jewish people is well served by those who are protecting us. Rabbi Whitman was asked the following question. Soldiers in the front line in Gaza, they go in. Of course, in northern Gaza, as you've seen on the news, most of the people have moved to the south. Most of the buildings are destroyed. Those that are not completely destroyed are in danger of falling. He was asked the following question. Is it permissible in a situation where Israeli soldiers are in a building, the building is about to be destroyed completely, The people who live there have left. There is no way that they're coming back. There's no way that they're going to come back for anything that is in the building. Do the Israeli soldiers have the right to take whatever is left? Are they allowed to take the spoils of war? So, first, Rabbi Rimon analyzes the different verses in the Torah. There are some places in the Torah where the Torah specifically says that soldiers are allowed to take the spoils of war. There are other places where the Torah specifically says they are not allowed to take the spoils of war. But Rav Rimon explains that this does not apply in our situation because it is only the army or the government to take what is left in war for the purposes of the nation. It is not permitted for any individual to take items for their personal use. And so the answer is no. Why should this be? Rav Rimon explains that he once heard explained by Rav Aaron Lichtenstein that we are going to war for a mitzvah, to defend the Jewish people. If we end up taking things for our own personal use, it changes the entire quality of what we are doing. Once we no longer have a noble purpose, we're just killing people. In order for this to be a mitzvah of defending the Jewish people and the state of Israel, it must be with the highest purity of motive and behavior. And therefore it is not permitted for any soldier to take anything personal back home from battle. However, he said, if a soldier is in the middle of battle and there is something in this building that they need in order to fight, that of course is permitted because they are making use of it in order to be able to hopefully be successful in battle. So listen please carefully to this. Rabbi Rimon records that a couple of days ago he received a question from a soldier. The soldier said to him, I'm in Gaza. I'm inside a building that's almost destroyed. There's nobody else around. My phone, my cell phone, is about to expire. And I need my phone in order to be able to stay in contact with my comrades, with the others in my group. And for some reason, somehow, there is still electricity in this building. Am I allowed to plug in my phone to make use of the electricity that is in this building in Gaza to recharge my phone so that I'll be able to fight better? Rav Rimon recalls that he was overwhelmed by emotion when he received this question. And he writes, there is no soldier of any army in the world that would ask a question like this. The Jewish people and Sahal, the Israeli army, is the most moral fighting force in the world. And we see this in so many examples, such as this question. Who would even think before plugging a phone in to be able to recharge a battery? Rav Rimon answers the question, obviously, that it is permissible because it's not something that he's taking home, it's something that he needs to be able to fight, and therefore it's permissible. But just listen to the refinement of character and morality that is behind the question, that's even asking such a question. There is no more moral or spiritual army in the world. Let me share one more example. Of course, among the soldiers fighting in Gaza on the front line, in the most dangerous places, many, many young men and women. I hope to speak about the women another day because that's something extremely important to discuss. And so, it is understandable, just statistically, that there will be a number of babies born during this time. And if there are a number of babies born, that means there are a number of babies that will have a bris. But the father's on the front line. If it is possible, the army tries to allow a father under those circumstances to travel home for the bris. It means so much to be at the bris of one's child, especially during these times of self-sacrifice. It means so much to the father, to the family. Rabbi Rimon was asked the following question, okay, but what happens if the bris is on Shabbos? So let's divide this into two. If a soldier is able to travel home on Friday before Shabbos starts, in order to be able to be home for the bris that's going to be on Shabbos morning, Saturday morning, even though immediately after the bris on Saturday morning they're going to have to drive back to the front, that is certainly permissible because on Friday is Friday. They're allowed to drive on Friday, especially because they're driving for the purpose of a mitzvah, to attend a bris. Shabbos, Saturday, when they're called to their back to the front, they're needed at the front. Of course, that takes precedence over Shabbos. It's a necessary military operation that they're involved in. So, of course, that's an easy question. Travel home before Shabbos, after the bris, on Shabbos, you're called back to the front, you go back to the front. What happens if the soldier is only released to be able to go back home on Friday night when Shabbos has already started? Now again, coming back after the bris is not an issue because this soldier is needed at the front. But is it permissible to drive home on Shabbos in order to attend a bris? On the one hand, the emotional energy needed to keep up fighting morale is maybe as important, if not more important, than the spiritual energy. To miss out on a life event like that could be something of such emotion and difficulty for the father, for the mother, for the family. But Shabbos is Shabbos. And Shabbos is set aside only for an issue where there is the possibility of the threat to life, like going to fight a war. Being able to attend a bris is not a threat to life under normal circumstances. So a soldier turned to Rav Rimon. Baby boy was born. Bris is going to be Shabbos morning. He's only able to leave the front at 11 p.m. Friday night. It's already Shabbos. Can he go? Listen, please, to the sensitivity of how Rabbi Rimon answers this question. He says, if the reason that you're going to travel to this bris on Friday night is because it is very, very important for you to be present at the bris of your son, which certainly we all understand, we take for granted, the answer is no. That's not a permissible reason to drive on Shabbos. If the reason that you want to drive back on Shabbos to the bris is because your family will never forgive you for not having been present at the bris of the son, the answer is no. Because that too is not the possibility of a threat to life, and that does not allow driving on Shabbos. If the reason you want to drive back to the bris on Friday night is because for the rest of your life you will never forgive yourself that you were not present at the bris of your son, the answer is no. Because that too does not rise to the level of allowing setting aside the laws of Shabbos. However, if the reason that you want to travel back home for the bris is because by attending the bris, you'll be able to come back to the battle recharged spiritually and emotionally and physically, and you will be able to fight better when you come back, that's permissible. Because that is going to be something that could possibly make the difference between life and death if you come back recharged and energized and better able to fight the enemy. And then Rabbi Rimon goes on to explain that this is an answer he's given to many soldiers, and there are many different aspects of this. Soldiers that go to the front, they're often away for weeks at a time. They're away from their loved ones. They have no contact. They can't even be in contact with them. And Nebuch, they don't even know if they will return. Nebuch, God forbid. And so Rabbi Rimon said to him, probably you're in this category because, again, the emotional aspect, how you feel, will give you the strength to fight better. And I would suggest that you go home for the bris. That's what Rabbi Rimon says. A half hour later, the soldier calls back Rabbi Rimon. And he says, Rabbi Rimon, after I thought about what you said, I looked into my heart. I thought about the different reasons for coming home for the bris. And I decided that for myself, it would not be the right thing for me to come back for the bris. I'll be able to fight just as well. And I have chosen not to attend the bris of my son. And with God's help, I should be able to celebrate many future happy occasions with my children. And the fact that I was away for my son's bris will be a lesson that they will learn in the future. That's what this soldier said. When Rav Rimon received this answer, he was overwhelmed with emotion. He asked for the name and the number of this man's wife, and he made a short video to send to her to give her a bracha on the birth of the baby, on the upcoming bris. And he added these words. Please listen carefully. Only someone like Rabbi Rimon could say this. Even though that your husband and the father of your children will not be at the bris, but you have merited that you have a husband and a father who is an emissary of Am Yisrael, of the Jewish people, the Jewish nation. A man who has the merit to be one of those heroes that protects the Jewish people and the state of Israel. And with God's help, he will return home safely, both physically and spiritually and emotionally. And he will be able to celebrate with you in the future, together as a family. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. God, who is like your people Israel? A people of such refinement, selflessness, conviction, idealism. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. Who is like your people Israel? My friends, I wish you a good day, and I look forward to seeing you all soon in person.